Welcome to the Happy Recruiter Show with Jody Brandstetter. Thank you to our sponsor, Talent Acquisition Evolution, a community for recruiting professionals to connect, learn, and work together. Today's show, we'll talk with Angie Redmon from striveHR and Julie Weisenback from Wise Talent Solutions. Julie, Angie, thank you so much for joining me on the Happy Recruiter Show. I am so excited to see both of you. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you for having us. I love the name of your podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
Very excited to be here.
All right. So what we talk about is all about talent acquisition, the future of work, and you get to taste some of our wonderful Cincinnati chili. So want to first give you guys a minute to tell us a little bit about you. So I'm going to go ahead and have Angie start first.
Hi, well, thank you for having us once again. I am the president of striveHR, and at striveHR, we help organizations that are aspiring for a workplace distinction. You may have heard some of those, like best places to work or top workplaces, and I help guide them along that journey. And then I also help HR professionals who are looking for that partnership with a mentor. Maybe they're early in their career or they're even further along in their career leading an HR team, and they need that advice, that confidant, that person to help them guide them through those strategic type conversations and decisions. So just launched the HR Mentor program recently, and I'm really excited to add that opportunity for my clients.
Fantastic. And then Angie, where are you at? Like what part of the country?
It's near Indianapolis. It's a small town called New Palestine, Indiana.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming and joining us. I'm excited to hear from you. All right, Julie, you are next. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure, absolutely. So I've spent a number of years in the talent acquisition space for a variety of different industries, and my passion's always been helping to scale organizations, from managing recruiting teams to helping companies just be able to go into new markets as well. And so I lead an organization called Wise Talent Solutions. It's my own company. And this is where I get to partner with companies that are just struggling with how do you find talent, with their employment brand, with their whole interview process from beginning to end. In addition, I also career coach leaders that are struggling with what is next for me. How do I find my passion and my dream as well? I'm based here in Indy also.
Yeah, and I think most people know that Indy's just about 2 hours away from Cincinnati. So both of you have experience and know about Cincinnati chili, but want to kind of get your thoughts around what you think about the chili. Do you like it? Was it what you expected? I'm also a Hoosier, so when I came to Cincinnati, I had my own thoughts on the chili myself. So would love to get your guys' opinion on the chili.
Well, as a Hoosier, I grew up with having pasta in your chili. That's how my mom raised me, that whether it's macaroni noodles or spaghetti noodles, there was pasta in the chili. And I think that was probably the biggest difference for me, is I'm like, where did the pasta go? I thought there was supposed to be pasta in chili.
Yeah, me too, Angie. Same way. I grew up with noodles, macaroni noodles in the chili. I've always loved Cincinnati chili, and actually we're a big fan of Skyline's chili, and so we typically will buy the cans, but I treat it very differently, where we'll put it over a bed of pasta and then put you pile it high with cheese. That's the best part of chili, Cincinnati chili style anyway.
The last time I did the Happy Recruiting Hour, I actually met with Travis Scott, who is also from Indiana, but now lives in Washington. And he gave me his thought on what Indiana is known for as far as food. So Julie, Angie, what would you say either Indy or just the state of Indiana is known for food? And I will definitely let you know what Travis thought.
Well, I've heard two totally different responses when I travel and I mention that I'm from Indiana. One thing is corn. I think people think everybody from Indiana lives on corn on the cob, but when I've traveled for business, so many people will immediately go and say, have you had St. Elmo's shrimp cocktail? And so if they visited Indianapolis, that's a popular restaurant to go to. And I think that that tends to be what people reference that they've heard of. So pretty different between shrimp cocktail and corn on the cob, but those are the two things I hear when I travel outside of Indy.
What about you, Julie?
I so agree with you, Angie. The one thing also that I'll add is deep fried tenderloins. And I'm talking these great, big, huge tenderloins. And we have a ton of restaurants around Indy that you can buy them, and they fall off the bun. I mean, they're that big. And I remember growing up, that's what we had, like fried food, fried onion rings, fried, the French fries. But those tenderloins, I think we're known for them.
So Julie, you and Travis had the exact same answer there.
Oh yeah, awesome. Yeah. That's funny.
So we could probably talk about food all day and probably talk about Indy all day because I have a lot of wonderful memories, but I really want to talk about talent acquisition with you guys. So first, I would love to know, like, based off of your experience, what are a few tips that you would give to a recruiter or a talent acquisition leader right now, during what we're going through today with COVID or with the future of hiring? So what are some tips that you feel like everyone should know?
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. I think the first one that comes to mind is think of your role, whether you're a recruiter or a talent leader, as it's beyond just filling jobs. It's really around how are you making an impact to the organization. And so, I think there's a lot of recruiters out there that are just getting into it, and you learn by, typically going into a staffing company, and your role is to fill jobs. But I think the really good recruiters and talent leaders out there go so much more beyond that. And you really, in reality, you're a consultant. You're wearing so many hats. For example, ingraining yourself in the business, asking those questions, really digging in to understand, where's the business going? Where'd they come from? For example, I would, my team and I would always get involved in the regular team meetings within our business. I'd have one-on-ones with the leaders, to understand what do they have going on. And I think the other piece is thinking of it, think of your role as a thought leader. Yes, your job is to fill positions, right? But thinking about it a little bit differently in a consulting hat and being about much more of a thought leader, I think is so important. Providing feedback, bringing up market data in every conversation that you have. Here's what this organization is doing. Have you thought about this? That's where I think we can really provide the most value.
I would have to agree with that, Julie, especially the whole kind of being that consultant for your hiring manager. They typically don't have any knowledge of what other companies are doing, the data, and that really should be the recruiter's job, is to provide all that, lay it out for them so they really understand what they're, what's going to be the impact. Is it going to be an easy fill or hard to fill? Why is that? So they can grow and learn more about their industry, as well as kind of what they're going to have to do as a leader with hiring. Yeah. So Angie, what are a few tips that you have?
What I would suggest is to align the values and the purpose of your organization with the strategies that you put in place for your people strategy and your talent acquisition strategy, and making sure there's a distinct alignment and connection with those, so that when your hiring managers are also talking to candidates, they're continuing to communicate that same message that the recruiter or the talent acquisition person shared with the candidates when they spoke with them. And that helps convey that consistency that, yes, this is something we wholeheartedly believe in. Decisions that we make for this company are all based around these same values. So that helps solidify that. If they're sitting across the table from you, or if it's a Zoom interview, that they already have the skill sets for the position, but really dig deep and make sure that those values match up. And the other piece of advice I would give is know your business inside and out. How does your business work? How does your business make money? How does your business decide who their customers are going to be? And so that when you know the business well, you can hire candidates that are going to best support the direction of that business and be able to support it going forward.
Yeah, so it sounds like both of you are kind of in line in different ways. You know, Julie, you're talking about being that consultant, understanding the market, providing that expertise on that side. And Angie, you're talking about, okay, let's have one voice, let's be consistent, and let's really understand the business, but also what are our values? What is our mission? And that way you can really be able to explain to the candidates and hopefully find the right fit, the right culture fit. And that kind of leads me to my next question about, you know, how can we as HR, talent acquisition leaders or partners, how can we stay relevant with everything that's shifting with the future of work? What are some key things that we can be paying attention to or ensuring that we're doing? We can't be paper pushers. We cannot just do the check the box and just fill one role after another. You know, you have automation coming, you have artificial intelligence coming. And so a lot of the pieces that a recruiter may have could be technically shifted to technology. So what are some things that you think we can do as an industry to keep being relevant with this? I think they call it like the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's two things that come to mind. One is data, and data is so key today for talent acquisition teams, for HR, just no matter what department and team that you're in. And this was always a struggle for me, you know, being able to find the right ATS where you can really track the data. And so we would do all these manual Excel spreadsheets, right? And I think ATSs, there's a lot of technology tools out there that are expanding, but being able to really look at data and look for trends and be able to share that with the business is imperative. So you can make data-driven decisions. The second thing that I would say is getting involved with other groups and industries. And so whether it be, you know, getting involved in following other TA leaders, HR leaders, you know, being involved in LinkedIn, attending conferences, events, getting a good understanding of not just what is your industry doing, what are other industries doing as well, I think is imperative so that you don't become siloed and just think about this is just our industry. It certainly broadens you know, your knowledge in other areas as well.
With going to other industries, I think we can learn from them too, and we can take some of their best practices and shift them over to our industry. At the same time, we're hiring in these industries, right? So understanding what they do and what, you know, what networking opportunities, I think it's all just a very positive way for us to continue to stay really focused on learning, but also learning the business as well as the industries that we're probably supporting. Yeah. So Angie, what are some thoughts that you have about how we can stay relevant?
Well, to expand on the technology piece of that, I think it's really important that you are aware of what technology resources your candidates are utilizing when they're searching for a job. I mean, making sure that you're going where they are so that not only are you embedded in those types of same IT and AI resources, but that you understand them and you know how the candidates are best using them. And then from a networking perspective, it's very different now. We used to be able to go to these networking events and basically hang out at these after hours gatherings where candidates would be at. So taking that next step to find out where they're virtually hanging out now. So how do we stay on top of those conversations and how do we get ourselves involved in those conversations so we know what their concerns are, what are top of mind, what are they looking for out of future positions, and making sure we are right there having those same conversations with them.
So yes, I would agree with you. It's all about empathy, getting, you know, putting our, you know, feet in their shoes and understanding what they do to find jobs. I think that's so important to understand where are they getting their data. So like Julie talks about our data, like we're pulling data from our system, where candidates are also, you know, going online, researching and pulling data about compensation, about benefits, about the organization. So it's nice to know where they're going so that we can keep track of that as well. Again, it makes us more strategic and it makes us more of a consultant to our businesses. Now, I love that we are three very powerful women that are entrepreneurs, and I love speaking to other consultants and hearing kind of their story and understanding kind of why you shifted maybe from corporate to consulting. So I would love to hear a little bit about your entrepreneur journey and why you decided to, maybe leave the corporate space and go into consulting. And then if you can just maybe give a tip on how businesses should be, utilizing consultants in a way that it benefits the organization. So I'm going to go ahead and have Angie start with that one.
Well, I spent many years in the tech and financial and manufacturing spaces, and I felt that struggle that so many people feel where they're taking care of a family. They maybe a parent, having a spouse. And in my situation, I was in a VP role, working a lot of hours, 2 kids at home, a husband that traveled, and I was spending a lot of time outside of work caring for a terminally ill parent. And I just felt like I couldn't bring my whole self to any of those places because I was being stretched so thin. And I knew that the majority of my time really needed to be focused on caring for my family and taking care of my mother before she passed. And so I thought, if I'm going to be making this significant focus on my personal life, what can I do to make that same focus on my professional life? How do I make sure that these hours that I'm spending working, I'm very focused on what fulfills me, what fills my bucket, and how I feel like I can make the most impact? And the parts of my role that I enjoy the most were really focused around the development of corporate culture. They were really focused around helping keep our employees engaged in what they're doing and making an impact and making them understand how they make an impact within the organization. So that's when I decided that that's what I wanted to focus my time on. We were very fortunate and blessed to earn several workplace awards, and I love that strategic piece of my role. And so I then wanted to take those talents out to help other organizations, guide them through that process. I also love the piece of my role where I could help mentor and grow HR teams. So I decided those are going to be the 2 niches that I'm going to focus my business on going forward, and made the decision then to leave corporate and go out and launch my own business. And it was all about striving for improvement. The Kaizen concept that we hear about in the manufacturing setting, that's really drove me to come up with the name of striveHR, striving for continuous improvement. And to answer your question on advice, I spent so much time when I got out on my own. How do we make sure the website's up and running? How do we make sure that all of these logistics of the business? I came from an environment where all of your I's needed to be dotted and T's crossed and everything was perfect before it went out. And in the entrepreneurial world, it's not always like that. It's more about building relationships. It's about networking. So my advice would be to focus on how you're going to grow your business, how you're going to focus on business development. The website will come. Those other resources are come. You'll focus on what it is what made you decide to focus on starting that business, and that's where you should spend the majority of your time. And then when you have the extra time, you can handle all the other logistics to get things going.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think you have to have everything kind of wrapped in a package with a beautiful bow on it, and sometimes you just have to take the leap and just push send, or just get out there, because if you don't, you won't. I think that's the main thing.
Exactly.
And I know before we started this, you talked about that you just launched the mentoring piece on your website. So
yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, and then how people can get more information.
I'm so excited that you asked that, because I'm just thrilled to talk about this right now. It's broad, and it's such a customized approach. Everybody has different needs. So whether it's the person entering their first HR role on up to that HR department of one, I've been that many a times, where you're wearing all the hats and doing all the things and trying to make sure tactical gets done, yet you're still being a strategic advisor to the company, on up to the HR leader who is running a team, handling the day-to-day tactical items. And you are that person, that liaison, the business partner with your organization, and making sure that you're involved in those C-suite decisions. So I am that go-to, that confidant, that advisor. It's tough when you are in an HR role, to share with other people within your organization if you're not sure how to handle something, or if you have a question. You don't want to give off the impression that they should question your credibility for any reason. That's not the case. It's just nice to be able to bounce an idea off of someone and say, this is the the route I'm thinking about going, what do you think? Or what are other companies doing? What are other industries doing that are having these same challenges? So I'm that phone a friend, that voice of getting a second opinion on how to handle things. I'll be working with people one-on-one, customized to whatever their needs are. And so the program will be, we can chat a couple times a month and still have access via email or Slack, whatever works out best for that person. But there is a page on my website dedicated to our HR mentoring offer, and I invite people to check that out, and I'll be happy to talk with them to see if it's something they would be interested in.
Great, and we'll put that in the notes for this episode so people can get to that, because I do understand the not having someone to talk to and be able to walk through that could be very difficult. And when we're in human resources, everyone expects us to be perfect, that we know everything and that we don't have struggles, or we don't second guess ourselves. And so if you don't have that person, it's your person, that can help you with that, having, a coach like you would be fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, Julie, tell me about your, kind of start into entrepreneurship and any tips you would give someone.
It's funny because I never, even looking back 5 years, I never said I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own business. It just kind of happened. I was in a role that continued to get bigger and bigger and bigger through a series of acquisitions. And I remember one day thinking, how did I get here? Like, I am not in my happy space, and I was doing a ton of miles to Chicago, late nights, and I just wasn't doing what fueled my passion. And that's where I had to take a hard look to say, okay, what's missing? And through that work that I did, I really figured out I was not in the right role. I was also not aligned to the right organization. And so that's where, really just taking some time to think about what am I passionate about. And what I found is I am passionate about consulting with organizations. I love talent. I love not just the recruiting side, but all the way through and the important pieces of having a great culture. And I kind of fell into it where, within a few months, it was almost, I had a few people ask me, would you be willing to be a consultant? So I was kind of doing the work before I was building my business. Good or bad, I'm not sure. But it was really more of a falling into it, I would say, and then evolving and tweaking it along the way as well.
And I know Angie talked a little bit about how she's doing the HR mentoring, but you talk a little bit about your career coaching. Tell us a little bit more about what that looks like and who you're able to help within the career coaching side of the business.
Yeah. And this is another one where I kind of fell into. So as a recruiter, we are always coaching. And I don't know, about you, Jody, and maybe even you, Angie, if you work in HR or if you're a recruiter, you become everyone's recruiter. So every family member, every friend, you get that phone call. Can you look at my resume? I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. And so I've always done that over the years. And then as COVID happened, and so many people, so many personal acquaintances and friendships that I had found themselves without a role. And that's where placement services and career coaching came into play. And it was really, absolutely, but I had to think about, I'm an entrepreneur now. All that free advice that I've given over the years, I'm going to have to build a business around it. And so, I work with individuals that are stuck. And what I find is, we do a lot of work around where are you stuck? What is it that's missing? Because sometimes the answer isn't to leave your organization. Sometimes it's tweaks that you need to make. Other times, there's clearly a big gap and that organization isn't going to be able to offer, what you're looking for moving forward. And so we do a lot of that upfront work to really talk through where are your strengths, what fuels your passion, what doesn't, what excites you. And then, from there, and it's funny because many times people will call me and say, can you just put my resume together? And it doesn't start with the resume. It starts with, you've got to do some internal work first before you ever start targeting careers. You've got to really think about what you want to do. When I work with a client, we don't do the resume in the beginning. We don't do the resume for a few sessions. So we've got to do that work, in the beginning. And then it's really, it's talking through how do you go about finding that next role. So once you've identified what it is, then it's the how and what are the steps and what are the goals that you need to put in place. And a big part that I find that individuals struggle with, it's how do you network? Like, how do you build that networking base How do you get comfortable? What's your elevator speech? I know people I talk with, they freeze up when they think about like networking. They're so afraid to do that. Like, how do you ask for looking for a new job? Like, what do you say? And so we do work on your elevator speech. What's your why? You know, why do you do what you do? And then when you look at, you know, things like, what are your motivators? What's really important to you, so you don't keep doing what you've just done that you found yourself you hated doing, because it's really easy to get back and do the same thing again. And so I kind of walk them through hand in hand from beginning to end, and, you know, similar to Angie, kind of being that guidance, that individual to help them along the way throughout their career struggles in their journey.
It's all the stuff that recruiters wish we could do when we're talking to people, right? Like, so very cool that you're kind of getting to do both sides, right? You get to help the company, both of you are. You're helping companies with striving. See, I'm now saying striving, Angie.
There you go.
You know, focus on them striving and thriving as a business, but then also you're looking at the person and saying, how can I help you? And I think that's really strong. And you can tell that both of you guys have some amazing passion around people and your business. So I really appreciate both of you coming on to the show. But before we go, I want to make sure everyone knows how to find you. So Julie, what are, you know, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn under Julie Weisenbach, or my email is julie@wisetalentsolutions.com.
All right, and Angie?
I'm also on LinkedIn, Angie Redmon, and then strivehr.net is the website, and my email is angie@strivehr.net.
Fantastic. And I'll make sure we get those into the episode notes so people can connect with you. And again, thank you so much for being a part of the Happy Recruiting Show. And I really enjoyed our conversation, and excited again to just hang out with two amazing women who are doing what they love to do. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for watching this episode. Like what you saw? Make sure you follow Talent Acquisition Evolution on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Happy recruiting.